Start a booktube, they say. It'll be fun, they say.
Turns out starting a booktube cuts your reading pretty much in half, if not more. Who knew? If you don't know, now you know.
You used to care.
Welcome back to my channel. Today we are here to discuss the teeny tiny stack of books that I've read over the last 2 months. And when I say teeny, I mean teeny. I have 19 books here. 19 books that I've read over the last 2 months. For me, it is just disappointing. My goal is usually to read 12 books a month. Between 10 and 12, I feel like I've done okay. Any more than 12, and I feel like I had a great reading month. But over the last 2 months, between Slumptember and getting burnt out in October, honestly, this is just the year of slumps. 2023 is the year of slumping. I do think part of it has to do with this channel. I do think I have spent so much more time editing than I ever thought would be the case. This is definitely an adjustment for me, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's disappointing, it's frustrating. I want to read so badly, but I also want to
Give the people what they want, which is content, right?
even though I only read 19 books, I feel the need to discuss them, to talk about them with you. Most of the books in this wrap-up are actually featured in videos, which just goes to show that unless I'm filming a video, I'm really not reading because I'm editing. So we're gonna have to fix that one day, hopefully soon. I'm gonna just briefly discuss them. If you're more interested in my thoughts on them, you can go watch those videos. I will link them above, below, somewhere so you can see them. I started off September reading The Shining during my fall weekend vlog where I decorated my apartment for fall. This was my first time reading The Shining. I really enjoyed it. More than most of Stephen King's books that I've read so far. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4-star. It was not perfect. There were definitely some telltale signs of its age, but overall I really had fun with this book, and I also watched the movie for the first time, and it was a good time. It was a great time. Also during that video I read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is definitely at the top of the list for thrillers this year so far. I gave it a 5 stars. It was such a fun time. I actually really want to reread it because I feel like I don't say this often about thrillers, but I feel like with this one I could get more out of it with a second read. So I really enjoyed this. I am so glad that I read it, and it's probably going to be on a favorites list this year. Is it an all-time favorite? No. But it's definitely higher up there than most of the thrillers that I've read this year, which just goes to show what kind of year we're having as far as reading goes. I also read The London Seance Society. I gave this book 3.5 stars, somewhere in there. It was good. It was a good gay time. I think I was setting myself a little bit up for failure just because I don't tend to love historical fiction, and even though this definitely has some like paranormal elements to it, it's also definitely historical fiction, and it's definitely focused on character development, on relationship development, which was good. It was all very well done. It just didn't hold my attention quite as much as I wanted it to. So 3.5 I felt like was a fair rating because it was very well written. It just wasn't a perfect book for me. Moving right along, during September I filmed a 24-hour reading vlog in which I tried to beat the slump that I was facing. I had only read those 3 books for most of the month, and I got to the end of the month and I was panicking. I've never read that few books in 1 month, and I was very frustrated. So I forced my way through another 5 books, and I ended up actually having a really good time with some of them. So let's talk about them. First of all, I read Things We Left Behind. This is the 3rd and final book in this series. I was so looking forward to this, and I thought this was gonna be my favorite. Turns out it wasn't, but I still gave it a 5 star. I really enjoyed this couple. I think that this story left a little bit to be desired. That being said, I had to give it a 5 star just because I love these characters so much, and learning about their past was so interesting to me. So yeah, was it a little bit disappointing because I thought it was gonna be like my all-time favorite? A little bit, but overall this series in general was like a 5-star series, and so I had to give this a 5 star. First book was my favorite. This is definitely right up there, very closely tied, and then the second book is a little bit lower. But 5 stars. I have no regrets. I actually would really like to reread these at some point. When? I don't know, because I don't even read for the first time anymore, but maybe I'll reread them one day. I also picked up Mr. Magic. I was very hesitant about this one. I enjoyed Elizabeth Frankenstein somewhat. Hyde was a big letdown for me and most of the book community. It was not nearly as bad of a letdown for me, but everybody hated that book, and I thought it was just okay. This, I have heard some mixed reviews of. I personally had a good time. I had a good time. It was definitely kind of all over the place. I said this during the vlog, so if you want more thoughts, you can definitely go look at that, but I do feel like it just tried to do too many things at once. But that being said, it was steps above Hyde in a lot of ways, and it was fun. It was a fun time. This cover is amazing. I have fond memories of it, so because of that, I gave it a 3.5. Just a mid-range average book for me. I also read Small Town Big Magic during that 24-hour readathon, and I loved this. I loved this. It was the cutest small town witchy read. I think this might be one of my favorite witchy rom-coms I've ever read. I can't recommend it enough. I almost feel like this might be like a yearly reread for me, just because it gave me the exact vibes I was looking for in like a small town witchy rom-com, like the exact vibes. A lot of times they're misses for me, but this was definitely not a miss. I had so much fun with it, and I gave it 5 stars. I also read Rouge during that readathon. I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. I definitely enjoyed it more than a lot of people that I've seen. I thought it was so fairy tale-ish, so whimsical, so descriptive. Mona Awad's writing is just beautiful to me. I don't know, the way that the colors were described, the places were described, the people were described, it was just so much fun. Like, I had dreams about those red shoes and that weird spa, and it gave me such good feels. I feel like this is something, and I said this before, but I feel like this is something that should be made into like a season of American Horror Story. Like, I could see Ryan Murphy making this look so pretty on screen. So I had a great time with this. I gave this a 4.5. That might be a little bit generous. Now, looking back, I might lean more toward a 4, but overall I really had fun with this one. A lot of fun. Just so much fun. Is it as good as Bunny? Absolutely not, but it's good. It's great. It's fun.
Let me say fun one more time.
And then the final book I read during that readathon is Assistant to the Villain. Spoiler alert, this is probably going to be on my top books of the year. In fact, it's 100% on my top books of the year. It might even be at the top. I know. I just think this was the most fun reading experience I have had all year. I loved this so much. I want to reread this so badly. I want to read this over and over again. I want to live in this world. I want to live with these characters. This was just the most epic, whimsical, angsty, romancy, crazy, ridiculous, fairy tale-esque vibe, and I just want to live inside it for the rest of my life. I want this to live rent-free in my brain for as long as humanly possible because I just loved it. It's definitely not the most well-written book or the most incredibly mind-blowing story, but it was just so much fun. It was just so fun. It was a good time. It was a good time, and I loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. If I could give it more than that, I probably would. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed, and I won't shut up about it. Sorry. I am going to throw an honorable mention in there for the 7-Year Slip. I did not finish this. I feel such embarrassment and shame, but I could not finish this. I have seen nothing but amazing reviews about this, and I really enjoyed Dead Romantics last year by the same author. Like, very much enjoyed. I don't know what it is about this, but I could not get through it. I ended up making it to page 140. So I read about half of it, and nothing was keeping my attention. Nothing was making me want to continue with it. Nothing was making me want to pick it up. I am not getting rid of this because I do think that I really do want to finish it. So this is not a final DNF, but it was something that I tried to get through over the last 2 months, and I just finally put it back on the shelf. So this is going to be sort of in purgatory for a little while. If anyone can convince me to pick it back up sooner than later, please do, because I want to. I really do want to, but I don't know what it was. It just was not working for me for God knows what reason. That is everything I read in September. That's what, like 9 books, maybe? Let's move on to October, which is not any better. Honestly, there's 10. I did do an Olivia Blake reading vlog. I first read this a while ago and I did not have fun. I didn't have fun. I didn't get the hype. It just didn't work for me. For whatever reason, her writing just did not work for me. But I wanted to give her a second chance. I wanted to read some of her other most popular books and see if it was just this, if this was a fluke, or if her writing in general just does not do it for me. So I reread this to make sure that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't not understanding the plot or the premise. I gave it a reread, and I hate to say, I gave it 2 stars. It's just not my cup of tea. Everything about it should have been. The dark academia, the characters, the setting, all of it just seemed like it would be a great opportunity for me, and yet it just fell flat both times that I read it now. So then I picked up One for My Enemy, and this one blew my mind. It felt like a totally different author. It felt like a totally different book. I enjoyed this so much. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Manhattan, modern day Manhattan, featuring witches, rival families that are witches. It was so much fun. I got so giddy and fluttery about some of these relationships and the angst that was involved in them. This rivalry, which made very little sense, was so intense to me and I cared so much. I gave this 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars and then I was like, okay, so Atlas 6, not for me. One for My Enemy, very much for me. What does that mean? What does that mean? So we had to read a 3rd book to find out. And we read Masters of Death. I thought this was gonna be the biggest winner of all of them because it is about vampires. It is about the godson of death. It just sounded so intriguing. There's a game involved. I don't know. It sounded like it was right up my alley. And it was, but it kind of also didn't work. I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars. I think that the idea of it was great. I think the execution left something to be desired. I think that it was a bit confusing. I think that it tried to do a few too many things. I think there just wasn't enough time to actually delve into all of the different aspects of this book. I ended up giving 3.5 stars. I definitely enjoyed it way more than Atlas 6, but I definitely enjoyed it way less than One for My Enemy. Where does that leave me with Olivia Blake? Who knows? Honestly, who knows? I don't know.
I don't know.
Then I did a Witchy rom-com reading vlog. I loved this video. This is one of my favorite videos that I made. I do think that I burnt myself out on the genre and I had intended to read 7. I only got to 5, but I had such a good time with these. If you want to see more thoughts on all of these, definitely go check out that vlog. Right now, I'm just gonna quickly run through the ratings. I'm not gonna go into detail on all of these. When Life Gives You Vampires, I gave 2 stars. This was super disappointing and I definitely did not have a good time. This is one of my least favorite books that I've read this year, for sure. I gave 3.5 stars to A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I got it right. I can never get this title right. I got it right. I gave this 3.5 stars. It was cozy. It was cute. It was not my type of book, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it's probably a perfect book for a lot of people, but for me, I'm not a cozy girl. Turns out I'm not a cozy girl. Now I know. I also gave 3.5 stars to Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. This was super cute, like very cute, but it wasn't like anything to write home about. It was just okay, you know? Like it was really cute. It was fun. Is it memorable? Absolutely not. Will I remember it by next year? Definitely not. But it was fun. It was a good time. I gave Big Little Spells 4 stars. This was the 2nd book to Small Town Big Magic. I loved this almost as much. The setting I loved just as much. The characters were just slightly less likable for me. Personally, I liked the first characters in the first book a little bit more. But I really did enjoy this and I gave it 4 stars and I'm definitely going to continue to read this series whenever she comes out with the next one. And then the 5-star was My Roommate is a Vampire. This was just delightful. I think I said that like 70 times in that video, but this was just so fun. It was so funny. It was so silly and funny and crazy, and I just had so much fun. Was there a lot of plot? Absolutely not. This was strictly a good, fun, silly time dealing with these characters, specifically the vampire. I mean, Can't get enough of him. He's just hysterical. I actually very much hope that we get more in this world and more of him. He has a friend in this book, and I would love to see a book about him, maybe? What was his friend's name? Don't you love when I say that this is a 5-star and then I can't remember any of the characters' names? Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute how that happens? It was like Nigel or something ridiculous. Not Nigel though. Bernard? No. What the hell was his name? Reginald. His name was Reginald. I think it would be so much fun to have another book in this world about Reginald and maybe his relationship, because I'm pretty sure he's single in this book. I'm pretty sure. But then we could get more Frederick and Cassie and I would just have the best time. I loved this. I thought this was great. Absolutely phenomenal. So that is all of the books that I have read that were featured in videos. So go check those out if you want to know any more thoughts on all of those. And then there's only 2 other books remaining that I didn't talk about in a single video. Just 2. Isn't that sad? That's just sad to me. I read Everything the Darkness Eats by Eric LaRocca. I saved this for when I went to Connecticut because this takes place there. And it was fun. It was weird and dark. Very weird. Very, very weird and fairly dark. It definitely, I think, had messages that sort of went over my head. Like there was definitely commentary on some certain things that I don't think I fully grasped. And I think it's because I read it so piecemeal. It's a very short book. It's only 220 pages. And yet it took me about a week to read just because I really didn't have time to read. So I read bits here and there when I was in Connecticut. And then I continued when I got home. And because it took me so long to read and I kept having to take like major breaks, like days in between reading, I think I missed some of it, but I really did enjoy it. I really did have fun with it. I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star, and I think I definitely want to reread it again. I think originally when I bought this, I thought I was gonna do like a 1-sitting read with it, and I think that would have been way more beneficial. So if I do a reread of this, if I do a reread of this, I think I would probably try and do it in 1 sitting because I think I would get just a little bit more out of it. You know? And the final book that I read in October, the moment we've all been waiting for, or at least the moment I was waiting for, A Curse for True Love. I had every intention of vlogging this experience, and I think I actually did take a couple of clips, but I more or less read this in like 2 sittings. I just needed to know. The minute I got my hands on it, I needed to know every little bit about it. I needed to know where the story was going, how the story was going to wrap up. My thoughts? I'm gonna give it a 4.5 stars. It was not quite everything that I wanted it to be. And I always think that's like unfair to like lower a rating of a book because it's not what you wanted. Like it's not up to you. It's up to the author. You know what I mean? But for me, the way that book 2 left off in this series was so intensely intriguing. I mean, I was literally freaking out when I finished that book because I was like, I need to know. I need to know immediately. And when we started this book, it definitely picked up right where it left off, but it took such a long time to get back into the plot. Like it took a really long time. And in the meantime, we were kind of stuck with characters that I didn't care about nearly as much as the characters that I wanted to see. So it took a little bit of time to like get back into the story and feel that same vibe. That being said, the ending was phenomenal. It was a perfect ending to me. Actually, there are alternate endings in different editions. So I got an alternate ending that I enjoyed almost even more. I'm curious what other endings are out there that I didn't get my hands on. But this series overall as a whole is a 5-star series. I will reread this anytime I want this feeling. I will absolutely reread this. How do I describe this series to you? It's fantastical. It is so heavily focused on the imagery and the fairy tale aspects. I mean, everything down to the main character's bright pink hair just gives you such a feeling of just like being a kid listening to a fairy tale. It's so calming, but it's also, there's so much like heartache in it. The characters are just so good. They're so good. Jax is so morally gray, but like in so many amazing ways, and finding out why he is the way he is and how he got to be the way he is throughout these 3 books has just been so delightful. And then Evangeline is just like the inner child in all of us. She just truly believes in true love and in happily ever afters, and it's just so nice to be in her shoes, in her perspective, and watch the events unfold from this innocent, hopeful narrator. It's just lovely. It's a lovely book. It's a lovely series. Overall, I feel like all three of these books as a whole are absolutely 5 stars. Favorite of the year, favorite of a lifetime, if I may be so bold to say. I'm just a sucker for it. I'm a sucker for it, and I can't wait to see what Stephanie Garber does next, because I really enjoyed Caraval. I loved that series, and I really, 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 really enjoyed this. So I'm so intrigued by her mind, and I love her writing so much, and I can't wait to see if she's going to continue in this world, if she's going to do something different with a brand new world. Like, I don't know, man. It was just so good. It was so good, and I'm so sad it's over. And that is everything. That is all 19 books that I've read in the last 2 months. Will November be any different as far as being in a slump and getting reading done and my reading quality? Who knows? It is already November 13th and I have only read 2 books so far. So that doesn't bode well for me, does it? But there's always time to turn it around. I am 3 books away from hitting my Goodreads goal. So including the 2 books I've read this month, I only need to read 1 more to hit 100 books, which was my goal this year. So if nothing else, I'll be able to achieve that, but I really have had such a mediocre reading year as far as quantity and quality, but especially quality. So I'm hoping that I can remedy that and read some outstanding, phenomenal books over the next month and a half, but I don't know. I don't know, guys. I do. All right, that's it. That's the end of this video. Short and sweet. It's done. It's over. If you enjoy wrap-ups, you're welcome. And if you don't, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, leave me a little pink heart emoji in the comments below in honor of A Curse for True Love and the ending of this excellent trilogy. I really appreciate all of you for being here and joining me. I will see you all in another video very soon. Hopefully. Bye. And the last 2 books, nope, moving right up. What is the word? I'm gonna throw an honorable mention. When life gives me vampires, nope. When life gives you vampires, yes. I gave 3.5 stars to both The Society, A Very Secret Society. I will never get this title right. Ever. I gave 3.5 star. Was there horror? Body horror? Because now I'm mixing it up with other books. I feel like there was. Maybe not. I don't know. It's a very short book. It's only like 220 books. It's a I can't with myself right now. Ugh. How do I describe it? Believe it or not, I usually have a way with words, but anytime I turn a camera on, it just goes boop. Have I forgotten how to end videos? I don't know, I feel like my brain's just like not working today. What else is new?